spokesman says the 94-year-old's condition is serious this time. Mandela hasn't made a public appearance since South Africa hosted the Football World Cup in 2010. CNN's Robin Kono has details of Madiba's condition in this report from Johannesburg.
Unspecified which one. The statement coming out earlier today gave a little bit more detail than it has been that we've had in the past. Essentially, the use of the word serious made people sit up, be very concerned. They also said that in the early hours of this morning, Saturday morning, that Mandela's condition deteriorated sufficiently enough for his doctors to rush him to a hospital. So I think there is an overall sense that this is worrying. That said, he is breathing on his own, as you heard. But for everybody in this nation, his family, I think around the world, people are becoming increasingly used to these hospitalizations. It's the 4th time he's been in hospital this year. And of course, his health has been steadily deteriorating for many years now.
These are the most recent photos of Nelson Mandela, taken in April this year at his home, surrounded by South African President Jacob Zuma, his doctors and some of his grandchildren. Mandela looked bewildered and didn't smile, reacting with discomfort when a flash goes off as his grandson takes his picture. So different to the vigorous man who fought so hard, endured so much. The former South African president has seemed frail and unsteady for some years now. Public appearances have become increasingly rare. Too much effort for a man in his 90s. Those he did make, Mandela sometimes dozed off during speeches and seemed confused. His last official appearance was in 2010 at the closing ceremony of the World Cup in Johannesburg. Throughout the past year, Mandela has been treated here for a recurring lung infection. Now he's back in hospital, rushed there in the middle of the night, again suffering from a lung infection. This time it's serious, say officials. President Jacob Zuma has asked South Africans to pray for him.
Well, best wishes to Madiba there. The secret surveillance program is merely the latest issue to put the White House on the defensive. Mr. Obama is also being criticized for stepping up the U.S. drone campaign overseas along with other concerns. He says what is happening is necessary to protect the United States, but as CNN's Brian Todd reports, it seems to be hurting his image at home in the U.S.
Plus years of warrantless wiretapping, sweeping surveillance, and enhanced interrogation. He was the candidate who said enough.
This administration acts like violating civil liberties is the way to enhance our security. It is not. There are no shortcuts to protecting America.
He promised full transparency, which he said would also be a departure.
The only way you can hold us accountable is if you know what we're doing.
Fast forward to this week, when it's revealed that Barack Obama's administration has conducted secret programs allowing the NSA to collect the phone records of millions of Americans and to monitor the online activities of people overseas. Add that to the fact that he's expanded George W. Bush's drone strike program, is unable to close Guantanamo, and goes after leakers with unprecedented zeal. And you've got the inspiration for comparisons like the Huffington Post's, calling him George W. Obama with an eerie-looking morphed photo.
Look, this has to be one of the most surprising aspects of the Barack Obama presidency.
You've even got the conservative Wall Street Journal praising the surveillance program, while the editorial page of the New York Times, a traditional backer of President Obama's, writes the administration has now lost all credibility on this issue. Analysts say previous political expectations for Barack Obama are in disarray.
When he was a candidate, the left was expecting an ardent civil libertarian. The right was expecting kind of a woolly-headed professor of constitutional law.
But should either side be surprised? As a senator in 2008, Obama voted in favor of the FISA Act, the legal guideline for the government's wiretapping program. But why would he have pivoted so far toward Bush? President Obama explains it himself.
I came in with a healthy skepticism about these programs. My team evaluated them. We scrubbed them thoroughly. We actually expanded some of the oversight, increased some of the safeguards. But my assessment and my team's assessment was that they help us prevent terrorist attacks.
But one civil libertarian says there's a more cynical reason.
I think many of his political advisors felt that if he really did carry out those promises, he could be blamed for an attack. He could be blamed for anything that occurred. So if you're always continuing the same programs as your predecessor and expanding them and accepting these policies, you are less vulnerable to criticism.
When we asked the White House to respond to the idea that he'd become George W. Obama, officials there were quick to point out the differences. Don't forget that President Obama ended the war in Iraq, they said, banned enhanced interrogations, and placed more oversight on the same surveillance programs we're now talking about. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Egypt's revolution against Hosni Mubarak is in essence been overshadowed now by anger towards the current government that replaces him. CNN's Reza Saya has more on a growing movement to oust President Morsi from power.
Barinci is on a mission to chase down cars, hunt down pedestrians, anything to get people to stop, listen, and sign a petition to remove Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi from power.
We don't trust the current administration.
Barinci volunteers for the Rebel Campaign, a nationwide signature drive against President Morsi and his Islamist supporters. This is the latest attempt by President Morsi's critics to get rid of him, and it's creating some buzz. The goal? Find Egyptians, at least 16 years old with national ID cards, who want Morsi out, and collect 15 million signatures, roughly 2 million more than the votes that got him elected. The deadline, June 30th, the one-year anniversary of his presidency. We've given him plenty of time, says this woman. Nothing has improved. Campaign organizers say they're not linked to any political party. So far, they've racked up roughly 8 million names. Many signing up say Morsi hijacked the 2011 revolution, pushed aside moderate and liberal voices, and botched Egypt's already ailing economy. He's lost his legitimacy, says Issam Mustafa. Ask anyone in the streets. Nobody wants him as president anymore.
We simply need a president who does what we want, who works for us. He's not working for us, he's working for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Campaign leaders say on June 30th, they'll give the petition to the Prosecutor General's office, demand early elections, and hold a mass demonstration in Cairo. We want new elections so we can get a president who treats us well, says this cab driver. It's no surprise President Morsi and his supporters are dismissing this campaign. A Morsi aide says this is nothing but a show. A Muslim Brotherhood leader says if people don't like President Morsi, they can express themselves on Election Day. Barinci and the Rebel Campaign aren't waiting 3 years for the next election day. They're chasing after signatures, demanding new leadership now for a post-revolution Egypt that is still deeply divided. Reza Saya, CNN, Cairo.
Well, from that seemingly unending Egyptian situation there, we take another break. Sports is next. Welcome back. The Scorpions this evening lost 3-0 to the Elephants of Ivory Coast at the Independence Stadium. Dagestan-based striker Lassina Traoré scored the opener for the Elephants before goals from Wilfred Bony and a thunderous strike from Manchester City midfield ace Yaya Toure put Africa's top-ranked side in the driving seat in Group C. The Scorpions missed a number of good chances until they were punished by a ruthless side, boasting in its ranks some of Africa's finest footballers. Gambia are yet to win a game in a group that also includes North African powerhouses, Morocco and East African Minos, Tanzania. The Scorpions will next line up against the Moroccans in Rabat as the road to Rio enters its final phase, with the Scorpions out in the running for the last stage of the qualifiers for the 2014 finals. The match, which was watched by a capacity crowd at the Independence Stadium, comes months after the loss to the Ivorians in the reverse fixture in Abidjan by the same scoreline. And from there, a quick reminder of our headlines once again. President Jammeh has procured 50 new buses for the newly established Gambia Transport Services Company in a bid to revolutionize the public transport